Hi there, so I film my RowAlong workouts on this green screen. Now, maybe you're one of my RowAlong followers and you're interested to see the process of what happens here, or maybe you are somebody who uses Resolve to do some green screen work and you're maybe interested in how I do this. Now, there are a couple of different ways that it can be done, and I discovered a couple of days ago, after years of doing this, that there is one setting that dramatically improves how good a key I get when I'm doing this. So I hope you enjoy this little video. I'll try and go through this as quickly as possible, but at the same time, I want to make it relatively thorough so you can see exactly what it takes to make one of my RowAlong green screen workouts. Okay then, so this is what I do. Now, I'm not a dyed-in-the-wheel Resolve editor, so my apologies if you do it some completely different way and you're not happy with how I do things, but this is what I do. So I get my clip, that's the one I just shot, create a new timeline, and then I make one sequence and call it footage, okay? And then I record a safety. We do different levels, so channel 1 is 3 dB higher than channel 2, but channel 1 is stereo and I know it's fine. So I do this footage, and then what I want to do is find a point where I'm rowing. Okay, that's me at the back of, back at the stroke. God, my hair was terrible on this shoot. And then what I want to do is just resize it very slightly here, just to help with the whole garbage mat thing of getting rid of unneeded space later. All right, that'll do. Just make sure here that I don't go flying off the back. There you go, yeah, because sometimes my elbows will go off the back. Then find a point, there you go, that'll do, and do a very quick color correction. So you can see on the right hand side the waveform. I want all those colors to just touch the bottom, put a little bit of mid into it, a little bit of high into it. Doesn't look hugely different. Then knock it slightly towards blue up there, add some saturation. You can see I just get a little bit of glow in me. Right, you can see how uneven my green screen is, but we'll deal with that in a minute. Anyway, right, so that's the footage. Nicely kind of put together. I've resized it and I've color corrected it. Then get that sequence, create a new timeline, and then I call this keyed. Okay, so this is made up of that last clip. A little bit hot at the back, possibly because of that light, but it's fine. So there are two different ways to do this, and I'll show you the quick way because it's not as effective. So if I just go into the color tab, which is this one down here, and then go into the picker, go for the 3D picker, and then click on all of the green, you can see that as I drag this pencil around the green, it disappears, but there's all the different shades that I have to kind of go through in order to get it to go. If I should do that. And then if I go to add, I can add a little bit more, do this bit down at the bottom. You can see it's getting a little bit cleaner with each bit. But what you don't want to do basically is get it so tight that you start to lose detail from the picture itself. Now, if I right click up on here, I can add alpha output. Now, for people who don't work in TV, alpha is basically information about what's not there. So you can see that, so what I've done there is I've selected all of the green, and so I've not selected me. That's okay, because, where is it? Yep, here, if I click on that, it swaps it, all right? And so now you can see, but what you can see here is a thing called spill, okay? So this is where the green light is spilt into the image. That's why the chain looks a bit green and the bottom looks green. But we have a despill control here. The more I drag it up, the more that green disappears. Ta-da! That's me halfway there. Keep going. Get up to about there, and you can hardly see it, okay? Now that's a pretty tidy key, you'd think. So if I go into here, here's power windows. This is where I start talking about garbage mats. This is where I need to paint out stuff like down here and up at the top. There's a light, and here I've got a little bit of mat and whatever. So I need to get that out. So if I press on the pen tool, I can then, now knowing how close to the back I get, I'm going to do here. In fact, if I go, there you go. So you can see that my elbow is going to disappear out of that one there. So let's just be a little slacker there. It's more about getting this top bit. All right. And then I know I'm not going to cross in front of the monitor. In fact, it's going to be up at the top, it looks like. But come down here. Whee! And then come up the side of this mat. There you go. And then I've disappeared because it's the wrong way around, but if I invert the matte, then it's fine. So all the rubbish is gone. If I turn that off, you can see all the rubbish is gone. I've still got a little bit up here, which has to go though. So if I do power window, and then if we go to another curve, then if I just add in this bit here, and then there's one way I have to click this where that'll disappear. Oh, that one. There you go, that one. And you can just see it's gone. So, I mean, that's, if I then go back into the edit, let's go to single monitor for the time being, that's relatively good looking at it like this. So if I move this up onto V2 and then go into my backgrounds, let's pick a background. This is all of the various backgrounds that I use. Let's just for the time being, just temp this one in. It's not a Christmas one, but you can start to see how you can see issues, like there's a really kind of hard line around me. Go back into the spectral, let's blow up the background a bit, get it a bit better. There you go, that looks kind of all right. I think I'm going to need to rotate my footage possibly. It's not that bad. I think, is it the shadow that makes it look as though it's, the background is on the Let's do that, that's better. But you can see if I hit play, there's like a hard, let's turn me down. You can see there's like a hard black line all around my body, and that gives this away as being keyed on green screen. You can also see a little bit bobbling on top of my phone there, and at the back of the rail you can see bobbling. You can also see actually that the logo, the RowAlong and Concept 2, they've changed color as a process of doing that despill. So I can go back into the color correction, and if we just blow in on here, if I go into that one, then you can start to kind of basically mess around with the various things here. So like post filter is a good one for, so you can see how it's blurring away that that spill kind of goes blurry. But the problem is it then starts to, if you look at the chain, it's made the chain disappear, and there's lots of artifacts then kind of get into it. And all the other ones like morph radius will kind of bring it down a little bit, but then it's starting to chop away on me. So as much as I want to be thinner, I don't want it to be chopping away at me. And as you can see here, like the chain, it hasn't reacted. That post filter hasn't made it look that good at all. And even, I think that's also going to be partly to do with that morph radius. Yeah. So if I bring the post filter back in, so it's just, it's a quick and easy way to do a key if there's not much movement, but it's not the ideal way. So basically that's 3 or 4 minutes of our lives that we're never going to get back again, because I'm not going to show you the proper way to do this. But just in case you're interested, I thought we should show you that. So if I go into here and remove, where's remove? Remove attributes, color correction. There you go, so that takes it back to there. So we've got the footage on there. In fact, I'm going to quickly go back into footage and do a tiny rotation angle on it. There you go, that's better, isn't it? Okay, so this is the way I usually do the keys, and this is also where I found this setting that, that I think is really going to help anybody else that does this kind of thing. So here we are in Fusion. This is the Fusion is the proper kind of like graphics side of Resolve. So if I do Control Space to bring up the tool options, I can use a thing called Delta Keyer. Okay, so that puts the Delta Keyer here. And then if I, first thing I could do is go to Premat. Now I don't particularly do Premat much. I know you can do loads in here, but I'll just do a couple of big bits. You can see there's blobs on the wall where I've painted a different color. So I'll pre-mat across them, and then just kind of a blank kind of green part. And that's really all I do for pre-mat. All that this just tells it like colors that it should definitely take away. Now if I come into here, background color, click and hold on the eyedropper and click somewhere in the viewer, you see that most of the green is gone. It's like, wow, that's fantastic. But you can still see shading up around here. And if I turn on alpha, this shows me, so like, remember what I said, the alpha is basically the stuff that isn't there. This is what you're seeing. So anything white is here, anything black is not there, anything kind of gray like this is half there. It's nice, neither here nor there. So first thing to do at this point is if I turn up the gain, you can see that it goes, whee! And I don't need it to be too tight. Really what I needed to do is just to clear the machine on both sides. So if I go for there, because the more you get the gain, the more see how I disappear a little bit. I want to get a balance between the key and me disappearing, okay? So if we go for about that, but you can still see that I'm quite speckly, but we're going to come back to that in a sec. If I go back to the normal view, and see this balance control, this will then change, well, the balance. And if I slide it back, then not only, if you look at, in fact, if you look at my shin, this is a good one. So we're a little closer to my shin. If I go, there you go, so let's balance at 0.5. But as I bring, if I just hover here, you can see various things changing. I'm suddenly getting more definition into my shin as I bring it to the left. Now you can see my t-shirt, back of my t-shirt starts to kind of come in a little bit, and then it gets a little bit, oh no, what's happened here? It's gone see-through. So again, this is about finding a balance between the definition, which I'd say was there, and then I'm still losing that Concept 2 logo. I'd have to take it to there to get that, but then, oh no, what's happening with my t-shirt? So what I'm going to do though, is I'm going to pick that as the balance between everything. So you can, I'm a little bit see-through there, I'm a little bit see-through on Concept 2, a little speckly. In fact, if I hit play, you can see, if you look at the seat, you'll see that everything's just that little bit bobbly. Especially look at the t-shirt, how it's all bobbly across here, okay? And that's because it's half transparent. It's like, it's not sure what it's doing, but this is where my magic settings are about to come in. However, we need to deal with the rest of the key first. So if we go back, fit, so you can still see it's a little bit dirty all the way around. It's still a little bit too see-through on here. Go to matte, and then take up the, if I take up the bottom end, the black threshold a little bit, you can see that top left hand corner disappears the more I bring this in. But again, I don't want to make it too much because then it starts to affect the key. And then on the top, if I go for the high and bring that down, if you look at my, look at my t-shirt and even like the machine and things, as I drag this down to the left, it gets more and more white. But the problem is, again, if you bring it too far, then it disappears. Everything gets a little bit too harsh the further down you get it. So I want to find that balance point again where most of it's keyed out. And then if I hit play, I want to make sure there's no speckly bits around in the back as I'm moving. You can see there's something weird with the rail, but we can deal with stuff like this and the phone screen. Down here, we don't have to worry about. But so if I stop here, go back to normal, and then this is where the setting that I've just discovered comes in, all right? Now, like I said, I've been at this for a couple of years and I've only just discovered it, and it's here, it's replace mode. So replace mode is currently on soft color, and what this means is that basically if there's pixels in here that are neither clear or gone, it's like, what do you do with it? And it's currently set to a soft color, and it's the soft color of gray. But if I change this to hard color, look at what happens to the image. So go back to soft color. See how if you look at my t-shirt and down at the floor, I'm going to go hard color again. Suddenly everything comes back in and it's a lot sharper and a lot more defined and a lot more there. It's like Back to the Future when they're disappearing. And if I go source, it's even slightly better. So if I go from source to hard color, you can still see that there it's a bit rubbishy, but source, which is basically using the source image to replace the pixels where it's neither here nor there. The only downside here is now you can see I've got this harsh green around me. So if I go back to hard color, it's not quite as harsh. So I'm going to leave that for the time being, see what that looks like as I hit play. And then also take a look at the seat, because the seat usually comes a cropper at this point. But okay, so then go back to me so you can see, okay, it's that kind of line going around me. So then the next part is erode dilate. So this is what I have to do on every single video, folks. So if I take, click too hard. So I want to erode it down a little bit, because obviously I'm trying to take away that. So if I could do this, you can see, oh, I'm disappearing. But not by too much. So I only want to go down to like 0.0001, enough. And then I also want to blur it the same amount. Again, the blur just takes it away a tiny little bit. So if I'm kind of just a small amount, very subtle on either side. I'm losing a little bit of hair definition, but most of the time, because I'm moving, this isn't a problem. Then go to fringe being this kind of hard line all the way around. Set that to medium, because if I set it to well done, you can see it's it kind of, well, it does maybe well done, maybe better on here. See that greenness? I said it's a well done. It's a lot better. Now if I go back to that key, I just want to check that I've not done anything within this balance. If I bring it that way, see if I bring it back up again to it there, hopefully my shins aren't too speckly. And then that really has tightened up the key. And if I go back onto here, you can see that harsh line that we had before is no longer a harsh line. So now I've got to do a little bit of color correction, blending, whatever, in order to try and get in. In order to try and kind of blend so this doesn't look quite as fake. I've basically picked the wrong background for this test. But this looks a lot better than the last version, and the kind of the pixeling on, if I go full screen, pixeling on my t-shirt doesn't look that bad. I'll just possibly, you can see this, I've got issues up at the top, which is what we're going to deal with in a second. But there's not, if you look around, there doesn't seem to be much speckling going on anywhere else. So the biggest issue I've got here is the speckling top left-hand corner, the color of the machine, and a little bit of this isn't quite right at the back of the rail where it's kind of disappeared, and that's keyed away. So if we go back in to Fusion again, this is where, so the first thing to do is I'm going to do a garbage matte. So if I do, I wonder if that's the right one, just stick up there, add on a polygon that way. So this suddenly goes green because of that, whereas if I take that away. So I know that from a garbage matte point of view, remember we did one of them before last time. So what I want to do is get my thing, where should we start? Let's just do it this way. So if I go all the way up and round, so remember I'm painting the bits that I don't want to be in there anymore. So, but I can be quite rough because it's not that bad. It's a bit speckly to the side. And then just take out this matte at the side. And remember, this is okay up until about there. Okay, and then if I right click, bring that to drag back, bring that into the delta key here, change that to garbage matte, you see it all just disappears. Oh, so it's just kind of said that's garbage, I'm just going to take it away. And now we can do similar, but the other way around by getting the same footage, putting in a merge node, shift click it into there. So now there's a merge. If I right click, bring that into merge, and now this is going to be a foreground because we're going to overlay this on top, and that's now going to be the background. Change that to background. And now what we're wanting to do is paint in. I felt let's just do it this way. I know my water bottle's in the way. I don't know how messy this is going to be. There you go. And that brought that in. And then if I do another one, I quite like following lines so it doesn't seem quite as, just in case there's a shift in contrast, really. Something, I think it's a screw in the ground down there. Anyway, right, and then if I go fit, okay, so that sorts that out. Got the colors back here, and then if I do yet another one, so let's do that, and then another merge node, and so that then becomes the background. That what we're about to do is going to be the foreground, and then that then has to go to the output. There we go. Wondered why that had gone wrong there. Hope you're keeping up here. So, two things we need to paint back in here are the rail of the machine. I'm just going to disconnect that so I can fully see it. So if I paint along the rail of the machine, and I'll probably stop somewhere around about there. See whether that makes a difference coming across my shoes. Sometimes it does. And I also want, my phone screen was a little bit ugly looking, so my phone here is running the ErgZone app. So paint that back in. I know there's other ways to do this in terms of the garbage matte things to do it, but this is just how I do it. So bring
that to there, effect mask, because that's what it is. But you can see that they're both green, okay? So that's not what we want, right? Because it's obviously that's gonna, you're like, hang on, why is the rail in the phone screen green? So we have, this will hopefully make more sense. So we've got the boxes that just painted those two in. In fact, actually should be this way around, shouldn't it? But, but yeah, we'll do it this way. And then that's the media in. So it's like they're creating the boxes, that's the media in, but we need to do something about the color before we hit this merge node. So again, if I go there and then color corrector, come up here, suppress, because we want to remove color. And then if I just get the green and drag it down here, ta-da, see what happened? So those green bits are now gone. Maybe take that down just a tiny bit. And then also just check that nothing weird happened to my shoe, which it didn't. And again, if we go back to fit, you can see it's all there. It's all lovely. I mean, look how clean that looks. And if you watch on that, there we go. So like I said, I'm going to need to do a little bit of blending. Possibly if I go into the background and bring the saturation up a bit. Yeah, it's a bit better. And just like as a start. Yeah, bringing that up seems fine. Maybe crush the blacks so they both look a little same about as contrasty. I mean, I probably will change, especially because the light at the back here, I'll probably change to a different background anyway. But that's how the key has worked on this. If I go back here and then blow himself up. So you can still see there is a little bit of a black line around my shins, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was the last time. You've got full definition across the machine. You can see the rail. You can see everything else here. All the kind of gubbins around here. It's all quite tight, and it's all because of that setting within Fusion for the key. Where we're again, just setting this replace mode. So I know we're now like 22 odd minutes into this, but if you're doing green screen keying in Resolve, I really recommend, if you're struggling, because I've been struggling to try and get a decent key out of this for a long time. It's always been bobbly and speckly. And this replace mode, changing that to either source or hard color, for me, has completely revolutionized how I do this.
All right then, I hope that helped. Either a little bit of entertainment for you to watch while you're eating your lunch if you just wanted to know how I did this, or maybe if you are a Resolve editor, maybe that little bit about the replace color has helped you when you've been doing your green screen work. It really has revolutionized how I've been making these chasing greens all over the place, and had I only known. So I do hope you enjoyed watching this video. I mean, for all the rowers, there's hundreds of workouts up here. For all the editors, there's really not much for you to watch up here, I'm afraid, sorry. But row well, edit well, be well, bye-bye.